How to Write Your Memories class. And the papers that I've passed out, in the beginning, we passed out our 3 pages of life interview questions. We've covered childhood, adulthood, and your identity. And we are presently on the present, aging, life lessons, and legacies. And as I told you before, this is something we can talk about for a long time. And we'll really get into this tonight. We've already kind of gone over the present. We're talking about ourselves. And so the present, that gets you to really start talking about yourself, because you're writing your memories for those who come after you. In the meantime, you're writing because you are the voice of those who have gone before us. I know that I'm the voice of my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my mother, my father, some of my aunts and uncles. I'm their voice. I have their memories. Some of them had children, and those children, my cousins, have memories. But like in so many families, our memories are different because there's so many years between us. I am the oldest member of my generation, and my aunt's children are 8 to 25 years difference in age than me. So even my aunt's children have different memories of the same person or place or thing that happened in their lives. So you see, it's important for us to always keep our voice, and we use our sidebars in telling stories as told to us, or a memory that's been passed down. The paper that I passed out is called Daddy Was a Doorstop. And did I do that? I did? I'll try not to do that again. Right? And this little story is just a memory that surfaced. My Uncle Cobweb was my mother's oldest brother. I speak of him frequently because he's very large in our family. He had a large presence, and he left a large footstep. Today, his son, Jack, came and delivered some of the material where he's a stonemason, and he's putting in a path for us. And every time Jack comes, I am filled with joy. I love this person. We don't know each other really, really well. We've lived apart most of our lives. He's 62, I'm 76. That's the age difference. But when I see him, it's as if my uncle was still there in a smaller, kinder version of himself. Anyway, I go inside and I sit down while he's unloading, and I write this story because it was one of my favorite things that came up. Daddy was a doorstop. Born Clarence Webb, he was called Cobb from the time he was little. Cobb's life reads like a history of the Appalachians, a southern comedy, or a trashy romance. The oldest child of Della Wyatt Webb and Orda Webb, life was never easy for Cobb, but he succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. From the time he was 7, he was pulling his homemade wagon around town, picking up and delivering his mother's laundry business. By the time I met Uncle Cobb, he was a powerhouse businessman, running his gas and car repair business on Route 7. He was still single and had lots of opinions on how to raise children. It was his opinion that my mother was not doing a good job. It was interesting to see how he would raise his own children. Uncle Cobb was a hard-working, hard-drinking, heavy-smoking, fast-living man. He made and spent millions of dollars during his lifetime, and some of his business decisions were before his time. He knew where the interstate was going to come through, so he bought the clover leaves. One of his best ideas was to buy land with a natural incline and build an outdoor drive-in theater, the Starlight Drive-In, located on Route 70. When Cobb got old and then died, he left behind a legacy of humor. No one who hears his name can hold back a laugh or a smile. He also left improved business properties to his children, a motel on Route 70, a 2-story retail building on the Cloverleaf at Jamestown Road, and the Stone House on the corner of Route 70 and blank blank because I forgot the name of the road. When Uncle Cobb died, he was cremated and his remains placed in a metal box, about the size of a brick. The box went to his oldest son, Jack. Over the next 6 years, Uncle Cobb held the front door open in the Stone House. When we all got together for a family reunion and Jack, Linda, Amy, and Aunt Dorcas decided Daddy needed to be near his people at the Webb Cemetery at Hales Chapel. As a family, they carried the metal box out to Lantana Road, turning left onto Vanderveer Road, then turned right just before Hales Chapel onto Leffel Webb Road. The old cemetery is near the end of the road and holds the remains of Webbs and Wyatts for as far back as anyone can remember. They placed his ashes between his mother, Della Wyatt Webb, and his youngest brother, Dudley Webb. Hi. When I go to visit my people at the cemetery, I pay homage to my grandmother, Mama Webb, members of her family, her sister Lillian, her mother Sarah, her brother Charlie, and a child no one remembers, Mary Magdalene, born to my great-grandmother on Christmas and dying on Easter. It is comforting to me to know Uncle Cobb is there now with the rest of his people, but I wonder, does he miss his place holding the front door open at the Stone House? Okay, this is like 10 minutes. It just like flows out of you. When it's getting ready to flow out of you, just sit down and write it. Don't worry about where it's going to go, whether you can remember the names of all the streets, while it's punctuated, or whether the spelling is correct. If that story is in there, get it out and get it down somewhere, because somebody is going to love you for it someday, if they don't already. Because people tell me, my children are so happy that I am writing my story. They've told me over and over again. The 35 people over at the Catholic Church in Fairfield Glade, so many of them stand out in my mind. But the woman from Alaska, whose greatest dream in the world was to fly. As a child, she was so poor and never thought that she would ever be in a plane. But life was good to her. She was a hard worker, and she accomplished great things in her life, coming from such a poor background. And one day she had the money to hire a pilot to take her up and fly. And she told me that story of how she felt, just as standing in the parking lot one day. And I said, you have to get in this car and go home and write that story down. Or maybe just sit here in the car and write it. Because that's what worked for Beverly. Beverly could not get started. She couldn't put the pencil down. It wouldn't write the words. She was paralyzed. Until one day I had said to her, we only had 4 classes over there, and on the 3rd week, she had not written a thing. And so she came 40 minutes early to the class and sat in the car and wrote a whole page. And she said, it sounded so depressing to me. I said, it's your story, Beverly. It's how you went from foster home to foster home. And the goodness of you shines through, because your mother, now at 92, even though she will not admit that you were ever in a foster home, is happy and safe, and you take care of her. And it's not necessary for her to know, but it was necessary for you to write down and acknowledge the foster homes you've lived in for yourself. Writing is therapy. Writing can expose yourself to yourself. There are many people who never write because they can't bear to face the truth. They're crippled by the truth because it's kept inside of them. The truth sometimes is so hurtful. It was so hurtful to Beverly that her mother never admitted that she had ever been in a foster home when she had been placed in that foster home by her mother, and then she had gone from home to home to home, living a desperately unhappy life for many, many years. And then eventually, as life does, it comes for a full circle. And even though it was all there hurting her, when she got it out, she said, I don't know what to do with this. And I said, well, you just burn it up. This is hurtful. Now go on and write the happy things. You know, remember what I told you. We don't always have to tell everybody everything, but we have to tell ourselves.